But this week's live comes from a post from Julie in our Facebook group. So thanks very much, Julie. Really appreciate you putting in there. Got loads of chat and loads of conversation going. So we thought, me and the team thought, why not jump on and really try and collate all those things together and give you my take on how to future-proof your business. And you were kind of asking about the business side of the club, business processes, and future-proofing. And I think it was a really fascinating topic, and I really enjoy this part of gymnastics and this topic. And there's so many different areas and so many different facets that we could go into. However, we're just going to give you kind of an overview today, things that I think are quite important, and then bring some of those comments and stuff in that that you guys in the group said. So first of all, I know that we all like to think, right, we need to get the business sorted and we need to do this and we need to do that. But before we do that, don't look at it as a massive whole. We need to break it down so we can really focus on specific areas of improvement rather than diluting our solutions and our problems and trying to correct too many things at once. However, having said that, a bit counterproductive, it is probably worthwhile having an overall bird's eye view of the processes and the procedures and the things you think you need to work on in your club. Because then what that does is that bird's eye view then gives you areas of prioritization and where you need to prioritize your time maybe first. But when we're looking at that prioritization, the one piece of advice I think that I can give to people is that you need to see if there are any single points of failure within those points. So what do I mean by a single point of failure? Well, to me, a single point of failure is a job or a task that can only be done by one person. So, for example, just plucking things out of the air, health and safety checks at your club. If these aren't done, then they could lead to your insurance being invalid, additional accidents, and things like that. If they're left down to one person and that one person is off sick or they decide to leave, that's your single point of failure because you've got no one else that can do that task. So who can step in? Who might you be able to train to be able to step in to do those tasks, to do that job, should that happen? So, you know, if we take that overview and go, right, okay, health and safety checks, need to find someone to do it. That's just one example. But I think after you've had that bird's eye view, you've then looked at if there's any single points of failure, they can then be put at the top of your priority list to really make sure, right, I need to fix this first to make sure that if anything goes wrong, then I've got somebody else to step in to be able to help. I find that a really good way to have an analysis, a good tool, is something that's called a SWOT analysis. Some people call it a TOES analysis, but it can be very eye-opening. So for those of you guys who maybe don't know what a SWOT analysis is, it's an analysis where you look at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of any particular area or facet. So to give you guys a little example, we've been working at the team. They're going to be able to give you some templates and stuff you can go away and work with. But just to give you an idea, so Johnny, he's our admin guy, and he does timesheets. He's the one that collates everything for the timesheets. So one of Johnny's strengths is, you know, he speaks to everyone, making sure that they're done on time, and he's created a process which everybody knows and everyone knows how to do it. However, one of the weaknesses is Johnny's only able to get in 2 times a week because he works elsewhere, so he can only give up certain amounts of time. So that's a slight weakness, not in Johnny himself, but in kind of Johnny's job and Johnny's process. Opportunities is, you know, Johnny's a nice guy. He's got a methodological approach. If I could put my teeth in today, he's very calm. And I think he would be great maybe to have someone to teach processes, and maybe we can implement those elsewhere within the club. However, one of the threats is if Johnny leaves, no one else knows how to calculate the hours. So what we need to do is we need to look at that and go, okay, so it's a single point of failure. Is there anyone else that I can get Johnny to help work alongside? So in case he decides to take holiday or annual leave or something like that, someone can step in and do that. Also, Is there anyone, maybe another person in the admin team, which might be able to learn something from Johnny, where you can put some of those processes and thoughts into other areas of the club? Another thing that can help, along with those overviews, is a process list. So what I mean by a process list is you can see, when a person, Joe, signs up, this is where he goes and signs up here, then this is the next part. It's almost like a little workflow. And you can assign people, at this point, so they phone up and they talk to admin. They also talk to admin when they go into their class. They make sure they're in the right class, and then they'll talk to the head of discipline to make sure they know little Dave. He's starting on Monday in the 4 o'clock session, and you can have those little workflows, so everybody knows who's doing what, who's responsible for what, and who to go to at each stage. So I mean, you can do those for all sorts of things. Changing classes, creating events, all those sort of things. But then to help you save time, some of those processes can be automated. So let's look at how we can make our time used most efficiently. LoveAdmin and the database system and CRM that we have is a perfect way perfect example of that. Chasing up payments that are being missed, it does it automatically for us. It can fire out an email to us if someone's not been turning up for a certain number of weeks, so we can chase them up, check in, make sure they're all right. Those are some of the processes which we can automate, or are automated through the system, which makes our jobs so much easier. So having a system like one that LoveAdmin provides is perfect. One comment which Rudy mentioned in the chat, and something that I thought was great, and another way we can automate it is having parents through social media and through everything. A lot of them expect instantaneous responses. However, that can be really draining on us as business owners, managers, coaches, to constantly be replying and constantly be getting in touch with these parents. So having opening hours is a great way of knowing, well, I can reply. I know I'm going to get a response between 12 and 6 because we know they're their office hours, or 9 and 4, or something, whatever your hours might be. But there are ways within Facebook, social media platforms, where you can have an autoresponder, which will then automatically go, thanks very much for your inquiry. Our office hours are blah, blah, blah. We can get back to you. Same with an email. You can have an autoresponder email. So when you've clocked off for the night, it will automatically say to them, I'll be back in tomorrow between X and Y, and I will respond to you in those hours. So those are another way where not only are you relieving your own pressure because they know what times you're open, but also it's an automation. So it's easy for you guys to have a response, so they still get that instantaneous response. Some of the comments within the thread, just to bring it to you, and again, this is something that we've actually done and I think is great, is outsourcing key areas of the work. Outsourcing is a great idea. We can't be experts at everything. We mustn't be afraid of asking other people who are experts to help. Things like outsourcing your HR, your contracts, your employee handbooks. You can then be rest assured by outsourcing those to a specific legal practice that they'll be legally binding. Another example is payroll and accounting, which can be quite technical, and another area which is easily outsourced. And that's something that you can factor into your business plan and your fees when you're thinking about it. Maybe you need to, when you're doing your fee increase, maybe you need to put extra 50p extra on to be able to afford to outsource some of those tasks, some of those things. But we can't be experts in everything, guys. We can have, and thanks through British Gymnastics and the other NGBs, they've got little workshops, online courses, and things that we can go, so we can have a little bit of an insight. So at least, if someone has that conversation with us, we know in the first instance a quick response. However, we're not going to know the legalities, the ins and outs of it all. So it's important that we outsource them to someone who does know all of that. And as we've spoken many times within our lives and through our articles and stuff, communication is key. So communicating effectively with parents, coaches, directors, or vice versa, directors communicating with everybody else, it's important. And there are, in that way, everyone knows what their expectations are. So there's a few ways that you can communicate and you can do these sorts of things. Again, loads of comments. I personally prefer to have meetings. It's the way that I like to do it. I like to have weekly meetings where I can then disseminate stuff to different members of staff, or then my key members of staff can then disseminate stuff to others. That's how I like to do it. That's my preferred method. However, having shared calendars was the one that cropped up. So there's key events on there, and several coaches can collaborate and work together and make notes on events so everyone can see what's going on. Another one on there was the weekly memos that you do. So you can send out little notes, that can have praise for people, that can have anything else that you've picked up on in the week that maybe someone needs to, we need to make sure, I don't know, the guys aren't coming in with socks on, guys, if they're not doing trampoline, let's just remember that. Or, has everyone bought a drink? It's going to be hot this week. That kind of stuff. And then another tool, more for events and projects, but still something that is very visual and easy to communicate, is something called Gantt Chart. Now, some of you guys may have seen them and may have used them before, but Gantt Chart is, it can be done on Excel, and pretty much down one side it has sort of tasks, and then across the top it has dates, and you fill in blocks when those tasks need to be completed by. You can assign those tasks to certain individuals or certain roles, and then print it all off and stick it on the wall. So at what point you need to be sending out. Let's use an event as an example. At what point you need to be thinking about advertising, sending letters out, emails out. When do you need to get your certificates in? When do you need to order your t-shirts, because the lead times and things like that. But it's really easy to see as a visual picture what that's like. Now, I've seen a couple of people do it in different ways. One can be just with lists of tasks. One can be the list of tasks within roles. So there's loads of different ways. But again, I think the guys back in the office are going to try and see if they can have a hunt, see if they can come up with some sort of template, which we can share with you guys, because it's a useful tool. And I think that, you might be able to integrate that into some of what you guys are doing. Last couple of points, kind of on future proofing, kind of on business planning, and they all kind of link into one, is contingencies. Is that try and think about contingencies and situations where you might have issues, so you can therefore almost have another, like a plan B for those issues. I just quickly thought up earlier on of the example of someone calls in sick. What am I going to do? I need someone to cover. Well, if you've got a list of coaches, you've got a list of them, and okay, so Steve he can come in and help on a Monday. Johnny, he can come and do a Tuesday. Margaret can come and do a Wednesday. So you've already got that list of people. So okay, I'll call up. It's a Wednesday. Okay, I'll call Margaret up, see if she can come and help me. Or so already that you've got those people there. So that's just an idea of like a sort of contingency that you could do. Another one is, which kind of links in more into our future proofing, is planning for if coaches decide to leave or move on, or they go on maternity. It seems a bit backwards, because we never want members of staff to leave, because we spend so much time invested in them, and I'd always advocate trying to do your best to keep them on board, trying to work through those issues. But sometimes ultimately they do just decide to move on. But what is your plan? Who have you got to step up into that role or that position should they leave? So that's where maybe you could have an assistant to let's say, the easiest way to think about it is we've got a head of discipline, and then we've got an assistant. Well, we want to make sure that we've got that assistant, so should the head leave, then someone can step up into, the assistant might be able to step up into that head role. Or maybe we've got a rec coach leave, but we've got an apprentice coach, and they might be able to step up into that rec coach role should they leave. And the way that in my head I like to think about who I would be looking at and who I would be earmarking for those sort of things. I'm looking for the loyalty, I'm looking for great work ethic. I'm looking for that person who comes in with a smile, walks out with a smile, interacts with the kids really well. And those are the kind of people who I'm going to be not obviously investing in, but I'm going to be spending time nurturing them to make sure they stay within my club. We all have those individuals that we know come in to get a wage and walk out again. And those are the kind of people who maybe we need to think about this future proofing and this planning if they leave. And then the last little point, I think, which is quite important for me, is knowing my margins and knowing my costs. Because what I don't want to do is I don't want to start a session up if I don't know my margins and I don't know my cost. So I know that for me to open my door at my gym, for the heating, the lighting, all the administration staff and everything else that goes along, it costs me between £20 and £25 an hour to do that. So I need to make sure that any session that comes in or any session that I have that I want to set up can cover that cost. Obviously, the more sessions that we have and the more that we're able to do within the gym, the less that cost is. But roughly £20-25 an hour is what I'm looking at. So I know if I want to run, say I run a parent and toddler class on a Monday, and I want to run a second one, I know that I need 5 parents just to open the door to come to that session if I charge a £5 an hour. I then got to think I need another 2 parents to come in to pay the coach £10. So then I'm making 35, just to cover my costs. So by knowing those, roughly, okay, so for me to make money on that session, I might need 10 people. And so those are the things that can help you. Knowing those figures can help you make those good business decisions. So those are the kind of things, guys, are all the very, very brief, very quick, rapid content that I think are going to really help you guys and us as a community really help future-proof and things about that we can think about. I know there was a lot there, but if there's anything that anyone wants to chat more about, then definitely jump on those comments or send me a message. We've just put that Ask Alex Anything, literally ask me anything you want to. We're more than happy to help. So have a good rest of the week, guys. I hope you all enjoyed this. And then don't forget, if you want something that we want to talk about, or maybe you want to brainstorm something, then put it in the group and we'll just get loads of traction, and let's hope we get that conversation flowing. But most of all, guys, have a great week, and I will see you all in a week or so's time. Bye for now.